Hello and welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast. BuiltOnAir is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase.
In this episode, we chat with Veronica Picciafuoco of 1820 Inc., an agency that helps businesses move faster without code. We talk about how no-code app solutions like Airtable can help just about anybody achieve their goals. In Veronica's experience, there's no such thing as one app fits all, and oftentimes half the battle is nailing down exactly how many bells and whistles a solution really needs. Indeed, part of Veronica's job is to help her clients decide whether their ideal solution is a car when a bike will meet the client's needs at a fraction of the cost. Speaking of which, the base Veronica shares with us was made to help a friend keep track of her horse training business. Looking for a simple, mobile-friendly way to log each horse's daily exercise to better plan the horse's activity level the next day, Veronica put together a flexible Airtable base which does just the trick. Okay, so now we are looking at your horse training business base available on the Airtable universe. We'll put a link in the description below. So tell us how you came up with the idea for this.
One of the big passion is Icelandic horses. It's a little niche hobby. So Icelandic horses are kind of special horses. Of course, they are from Iceland. And the special thing about Icelandic horses is that Iceland completely banned other breeds from going to Iceland for 1,000 years. And it's still the case today. So this breed kind of became secluded and evolved in a different path compared to other breeds. So they're a little smaller horses, but very sturdy. They can resist the Icelandic winter. So they have very thick coats and they have extra gait. So that's why I got into it. So you could do, it's like a car that has extra gears. So you could do different things with them. And I started like riding again 3 years ago. I tried one of these and I'm like, I got into the rabbit hole, and so I got really close with my trainer. Her name is Laura Benson. She has a horse training business. Actually, I created like a little site for her too. I just opened it up. She's here in the Bay Area, and she's also a performer in this show. So they do all crazy stuff with fire and horses, but we do normal things with also her horse training business. And one of the things I noticed is that as many like professionals who's really good at her crafts, she doesn't like doing what she calls paperwork. And I think it's a mix of paying the bills, keeping track of what she needs to do, and like I think everything that she had at the time was a whiteboard in her horse kind of stable. And so, one weekend I'm like, I think Laura needs help. So she spends less hours on paperwork and more riding horses and do what she likes. So I kind of started like by chance, and as a little experiment for me to build something for her. And as I said before, I try to walk backwards from the problem. And we were discussing, and she was like, told me like my problem is really like every morning, like I look at the board and I'm like, who do I need to ride today? Because she has a lot of horses on her stable. So this is kind of the main thing that I wanted this table to accomplish. Can I help her identify which horses need to be trained at the beginning of the day? And so she knows like who hasn't been ridden. She knows like where are the horses, because some of them are her stables. Sometimes she has to go to other stables, and she knows like what she's doing so she can charge clients afterwards. And this is kind of like number two. Like I want her like an easy way for her to just keep track. Because, sometimes like, I think she has a hard time just remembering and going back and say, oh, okay, 1 week ago, I wrote X, Y, and Z, so I have to build this client. So sure. That's the context about this. And I think a lot of like people in similar profession, like could benefit for something like this. And I took inspiration from actually a similar table that was about, I think, dog training. And this is kind of like, I added something to it, especially to figure out like the training log piece. But I took inspiration from other people. So I'm sure that everybody who works with animals could benefit from this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's explore it a little bit. I want, instead of like clicking explore here, I put some sample data, but I wanted to show you just directly on my Airtable account, because it has like the blocks, because I am a pro user, and I love this block, which is the database schema, which I think it would be a great way to just show you how the table is done. It's very simple, and the reason why it's simple is because I wanted her to be able to use it. Like I hate when, I would hate to build something that the end customer doesn't use. And I knew like it had to be simple enough for her to wrap her head around it. So complex formulas and a lot of like hidden fields wouldn't have worked. I wanted something that I could build and she could actually be using. So I kept it really simple. And the key tables are really horses, stables, and customers. And it's all around horses who are at the center. And then of course, every horse has a location. And then every horse is an owner. And then the training log is really what I created for her. And then it's connected to her pricing. So she knows kind of whenever she rides a horse, how much she's gonna charge for it. So just walking you through it, and feel free to interrupt me at any point here. Let's get rid of this a little bit. Yeah. So let me show you the horses first. Like, I have a couple of, test horses. Actually, these are real Icelandic horses name. This is my horse. Gender, the owner. She has some horses for consignment. So if it's for sale, it's checked, and it shows where they are. This is the location. She's connected to stables, so every location has a nice photos, and it shows you, which horses are there. And then of course, every horse has an owner, which connects to the customer table with a phone number, email, and if you wanted to give a discount, actually this is like one of the features that she requested afterwards. That this is like the skateboard, and if we build the bike, we will need to build it up a little more.
Sure.
And then here I added some view for her. The gallery view is the pretty one. So you have all the pictures, and of course, like the training log. So the training log is something that is the thing that she needed automation for, because it lived in either her brain or in the whiteboard, if she remembered. Versus what I created is a form that she can complete every day. So she can go to the daily training log, and basically she every day, and there's an automation here that can send an email to her. So every day she gets a ping and say, who I'm going to ride today. She can write it. She can automatically pick a horse, and then she can also specify, even at the end of the day, she can specify like what she did, pulling from the services table. And this is another option, like, she remembers how hard the horse was ridden. So how tired they are the day after. And of course, like this gets logged in the table. So if you look at the horses, there's like this last activity field here that really commands the order. So every time she looks at the main view, for example, they are sorted by last activity. So when she asks that question in the morning, who should I ride today? Probably the one that's been ridden, not the one that's been ridden yesterday, the one that's been ridden like farther in time, if that makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense, because you don't want to overwork.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, if you have a horse in training, you commit to a certain amount of trainings per week. So this is a way where, she can focus on, one of the, for example, these are the horses that she has in training. She can open the record and she can see, all of, if she's training him enough or not. So that is pretty much what the tables does at its core. And what I really, really focused on is the view and keeping the table as simple as possible. And I have to say, I think I was relatively successful. What do you think?
I think you're successful. And something I want to point out is, I wanted to mention this earlier, when you're giving solutions to clients for whatever it may be, usually as the consultant, you have to think to yourself, what are the potential problems my client may run into, and how do I solve that for them now before I hand it off to them? And one thing I noticed in here as I think it's probably in your pricing table for the types of work that can be done for a particular horse for a particular day. One of them is non-billable. So instead of, I'm not going to fill it out, I'm not going to fill out this form today because it's not a billable thing, you put in there, here is a non-billable action, because you still want to take note of, hey, I rode this horse yesterday. Whether or not I charge the client, I don't want to overwork the horse.
Yeah, you got it. And so yeah, I definitely asked some question at the beginning, and then what I did, I created the table, and I said, hey, why don't you try to use it for 2 days? And you tell me what we would change. And I, at the time, like I had the non-billable one already here, but for example, a lot of the things that I added were like fields on the pricing table. Like, I only had like 4 options in the first version of this. And she was like, well, no, actually, this is more complicated, and I want to, make sure that I account for other things. And another, for example, we created the discounted rate for certain customers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like one of the opportunities where, you start with the skateboard, but you can really evolve the pricing. So the first thing I told her is, if you have new pricing, you can go directly in here and change it.
Right.
And this is going to be reflected in your daily training log, form every day. So you finally, you can add a new horse and it will appear here. You can add a new, you can add a new service, a new pricing, and it can appear there. And I think the other thing that I added is this roll up here in the horse table. In the training log table, which was in the main view, which was the earnings, which is, okay, can we calculate, and this looks small now because this is like kind of test table where they only get ridden once.
Sure.
But ideally, like every time you ride, like you can calculate like how much that ride has earned you as a trainer. So you can say, it's nice to see like you did a lot of like hard day's work. And at the end of the day, you look at the money that you made. I think it feels nice. And it would, give us, make it feel better about, the work that she was doing, rather than, think, oh my God, I was so tired.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely, the pricing part is definitely something that, has a lot of expansion and interesting opportunities for any trainer that uses Airtable, I think, because according to how you bill and you price to clients, you can do interesting things. For inspiration, I looked at a couple of boards, and I think one had an interesting setup for pricing, where instead of just having like a pricing table, they had an orders table as well. So you could, for example, like my trainer, you can just purchase one lesson, or you can purchase a package of 10. So in that case, like you could, create an order, and it adds some complication because you add another table, but you could record that you sold a package, and then kind of work backwards from there and figure out like, how many lessons that particular owner had used or not used, and kind of calculate when they were due for a new package, for example.
Yeah.
So that would be like the bike version of this table. And of course, like the car version that I want to build her in the future, when I have some time, is connect this table to the website that I showed you before, where she has like a contact at form at the bottom. I think it would be very cool if this also becomes her kind of customer data management. And it can all live here. So, she can have customers, and maybe she can have like, prospective customers that come from the site directly to here. And it's nice because, I built the website in Webflow, and Webflow has some nice CMS tools, but it also connects to Airtable. So we could sync that. We could even sync the horses that she has on the website to this table. So this is like, I think, something that I don't think was possible like before Airtable and Webflow decided to create this integration. without coding, like having something that, usually every website that has a form just sends the forms to an email, versus, if you can send it to Airtable, you can, just manage like customers here. And, if you connect it to your email, you could just, email them directly, invoice them directly. I use that feature a lot for my own business. So here, like, we could add like a connection to the pricing in the future, and maybe invoice people directly when they're due.
Mm-hmm.
Send them the logs automatically. Right now, like every time I finish a package, I get a list of all the lessons I took. And with this, she can automatically create it and email it to customers.
Have you considered using the page designer block to make a little invoice out of your training log?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be super cool. Before, I asked her to do that and purchase, I think you need the Pro to do the invoicing block.
Yeah.
I want her to, really, really, learn how to use this and get it to the max that it can be. Again, I don't want to, like you asked me before, what if the customer wants the car? I'd rather, in this case, like I'm being a little like paternalistic with my customers,
Mm-hmm.
and saying, well, get to the edge of this, really use it. And when you stretch it to this limits, we'll add things.
Yeah. I think that's a good approach, because I have a habit of overcomplicating things. I don't know, it's in my nature, because I know how to code and I love coding. And so I'll always find a way to make things more complicated than they need to be.
Yeah.
But if it works, it works.
I don't think overcomplication is a flaw per se, but I try to be really mindful of who I have as the customer.
Sure.
Am I doing the customer a good service by giving him or her a table that she doesn't understand, or she has trouble, managing on her own without asking me? So again, I think you can overcomplicate things, keeping in mind that, something you said before about tools, like the usability of the tool is always very important, like how easy like people can, find their way around and use this. I think with no code, usability is paramount. You want to do something that feels easy, and then feels that, so that you can transition seamlessly to the client and they will use it every day.
Yeah.
That is paramount to me. And I wouldn't want to do something that, yes, makes me look really good and makes me look like I can do very sophisticated things, but then it breaks, because the more complication you add, the more connections, the easy it is to break. So a lot of the no-code projects have like just a lot of interconnections, and if you look at the diagrams, they're super complicated. Mm-hmm. And maybe engineering knows that the more nodes you add, the more probability of error or probability of things breaking you add to the system.
In a perfect world, one of my favorite phrases is, if I did my job correctly, you wouldn't know I did anything at all. And so I would love to have all of the back end stuff like hidden from view, and all you see are the pretty bits. But when you come up with a solution that's simple, that does exactly what your client or your friend needs, you don't necessarily need all the extra things.
No, we're definitely looking at the skateboard here. And then from there, you build the bike. But you want to start using the skateboard, because before I put you on the bike, the real Lamborghini of this, I think, could be like turning this into a client dashboard. I know Airtable recently added like some features about permissions, because I think this is a feature that they're getting a lot. Like people start using this as internal, like this could be, just an internal, of course, beautiful way to run your business, but still internal. But what if, you want your client to log in and check on their horses? Like, I want to know when my horse was ridden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I want to just go to the gallery view, log in and look at, the last time that I was ridden. Maybe I can look at the notes if she's writing it for me, if she's in training. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So you could really get complicated with this. And I think between the new features that Airtable put together, and I was actually testing another product that is built on top of Airtable. It's called Stacker.
I'm glad you mentioned it because if you
Okay.
weren't, I was going to.
Oh,
So,
okay, good,
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
So
So
Stacker made like this, they're a third-party company, but they made this ability to take your Airtable and turn it into a dashboard. So like you're saying, your client can log in and just see only the horses that are theirs, where they're assigned as the owner in the customers table. And then they'll be able to check and look at the status and see when was the last time. So, you know, people, whether it's Airtable or third party members, are moving toward that being as, you know, a great use of Airtable as a software.
yeah, I think it comes from the need to automate things. Like you realize a lot of the things that are, time consuming is responding to clients with
Mhm.
email. And, and horse people are terrible at email. Maybe other professionals are too, but horse people are really bad at email. And
Well, in
anybody.
defense of horse people, I think usually, and this is just my experience,
No, go
when
ahead.
you have like communities with a lot of people who have stables and, you know, have horses, they don't have the best reception.
Yes.
I think
Also
because
doesn't
it's a lot of open space and there's no cell towers. So, you know,
That's
in
true.
defense of horse people.
That's true. So yeah, for very justifiable reason. Also, you're on a horse. You don't want to check your smartphone and respond to emails. You don't want to use emails. So try to automate as much as possible rather
Right.
than respond to emails that are like, oh, how many lessons I have left. Well, you would need to say to the client something like, well, let me check when I get home. And now maybe they could just check it on the dashboard.
Right.
Or like imagine like when she has some these horses in training, this horse might have expenses related to that. So if we could add a table with expenses, and the owner could see, oh, like the horse got fall shots from the vet, and this was the charge, and this is the invoice that's attached to it. And you can and honestly, like something that I like to do for my business, and I think it would be helpful for any business, is have like a really rough balance sheet that you can run on our Airtable. I don't know if you had any walkthrough of that, and sadly, like I haven't built this in this table, but if you have like horses, you can have income associated to horses, but also expenses associated to horses. And it's funny, I think it would be interesting if I had a training business to see, you know, am I breaking even with this horse, or
Mm-hmm.
am I losing money? Because maintaining horses is very expensive, especially in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be interesting to look at at this table in a more like financial aspects. So many
Yeah.
opportunities with only one tool.
Right. Super flexible, and you know, you mentioned scalability as well, and there's you could have any number of horses, but there's the ability to filter by what are my active horses, if you will, like who are the ones in my
Yeah,
stables at
you
the
could do
moment.
that. And then actually I don't think we hit that limit yet, but I know Airtable, this is the probably the weakest link. So like to my customer, I would say, hey, like I think you're fine with this Airtable plan for these tables, but for the training logs, if you hit the maximum number of rows, you might want to think of just archiving things,
Mm-hmm.
or like doing something like that, or just go pro and then go wild and maybe add like a block for visualization, so you can see like how many days of the week you're training, and then you could do interesting stuff once you have like raw data like that. And I
Right.
didn't mention it I think at any point during this, but it just hit on me that one of the things that I love about Airtable, and it's important even in our job at 80/20 when we pick tools for our customers, that the customers like the tool, they're able to use it without our help, but they also can get out of it. I think a lot of the website builders, they tend to lock you in. Like I like Squarespace, but you got to live in Squarespace.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very powerful when you're adopting a new tool, you're investing in it, and hopefully it works forever. But if it doesn't work, you can just export a CSV and move it to somewhere else, or just send it to someone else without problems. I think that's something that always is important.
No, it's very valuable. Especially even if you still wanted to use it, but you wanted it to play nice with some other tool, like you mentioned Webflow, the ability to get your data and put it somewhere else is
Absolutely
super useful. It's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I think really makes no code competitive with code options across every aspect, because that's the big thing about, asking a developer to code. Like you're handed something and that is yours, for you to keep forever. Like there's no subscription, nothing. With no code tools, like there are some monthly fixed costs that, they're totally transparent in our project fee, and then they're transferred to the client. But it's good to know that, if you wanted to, you can get off and just rebuild the car the way you want it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. Like I said, we'll put the link to this space on the universe in our description of the video below. So anyone who wants to use this base, if you also happen to train horses, but this is a super adaptable base that I think could work for anything that needs a log to remind someone to do something, frequently or at a regular schedule or something of that nature.
Thank you, Camille. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, the basis in Universe, it has some pre-filled table. I hate when I go on Universe and you find these empty tables and you have to fill them out to figure out how they behave. Like I try to avoid that.
It's a little harder to understand what field is doing what, especially if there's hidden fields. But yeah, your base looks great. Like you said before, not super, super complicated with a billion hidden fields performing magic. The magic is plain to see.
Yeah, and I think now that you made me, think about a next project idea, which is I probably want to build, like, this is the skateboard, and I want to build like the bike version, and maybe I'll save it as another template so people can see like the difference. And then maybe you can, go even fancier and fancier. And honestly, we should probably at 80/20, we should probably open, like, this is on my personal account, we should open a company account and just see if we can put some of the work we did for clients on Universe. It was a lifesaver for me, like as I try to learn Airtable. It's inspiration of what you can do. Like I found Stacker just because I was looking for facilities management table, and there was something in Universe, and I don't know how I follow the thread, and I found it. So definitely Universe is the Bible for everything.
Yeah, it's a great place. A lot of great stuff on there.
Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. You have this, we're recording on a Sunday. You have a great week.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.